everyone. Pull up a chair and get comfy.
Oh, girl, have we got stories to tell you all. The Never Alone podcast is about to begin, and you don't want to miss a minute.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Iris Fisher Smith, back here with our podcast entitled Never Alone. It's based on my book called Never Alone. And as you know, I've said in other segments, it's about the importance of family and friendship and sticking together with God at the center. And I have my co-host with me tonight, Karen Hirth-Whitty. Welcome back, Karen, and thank you for coming.
Hey,
And
nice to see you. Sorry, I dropped my computer just then. Yeah.
That's all right. Pick it up. Anyway, tonight we're going to be sharing something that's near and dear to our hearts, and we're hoping that our viewers will gain something from this conversation. The only way I know how to describe what we're going to be talking about is it's life. Life has its ups and downs, and we all have family, we all have friends that go through things. But what we're going to be talking about tonight, Karen and I, is the challenges that our children have faced that were very, very tough on us. And how did we get through it? We helped each other, as I talk about in other segments and I talk about in my book. It's so important to stick together. I've said this before. Ecclesiastes chapter 4 talks about two are better than one. For when one falls, the other one picks the other one up, and pity the man who's alone. And isn't it true that when we go through very tough times in life, and it does come, if it hasn't come to you yet, you might face something in the future. Yeah. And so isn't it wonderful to have somebody to hold you up during those tough times? And so Karen and I have been there for each other. And we want to start by talking about this business of painful moments, that things that your children might go through. Life is hard enough when we go through things, but there's nothing harder than watching your child go through something very, very difficult. It's just the way it is. So Karen, I wanted you to start off by maybe talking a little bit about your journey, from the time you got married,
my journey,
having your children, and then you had one child with disabilities. And I wanted you to talk a little bit about what that was like and how it affected you personally. Okay. So go ahead and just share. And then if I have a question, I'll let you know. How's that?
Please do. Sounds good. So for me, I was married fairly young before I turned 21, and I had my first child before I turned 22. So, and unbeknownst to us, we had a daughter who, lovely, my daughter Ashley, and she was born with what's called spina bifida, which some people might know, but it's myelomeningocele. And so she had a hole in her spine, and kind of a weird moment for me because I when she was born, I didn't panic. We had a pastor who had a son that had it, and I will tell you, he was extreme. He had a little bit more extreme disability than Ashley did, but I had this crazy calm over me. But what it did to me was to have this child come into my life, and here's this young woman who really didn't know who she was. And I realized at this time that, she was a gift. So like very capable, but it was very heart-wrenching too, because nobody knew what to do. We had this little teeny tiny baby being rushed into Boston for surgery. And anyways, I don't know. There's just sort of this weird prevailing thing. I just knew she'd be fine for the most part. I just knew that she was going to be good. And so she had surgery, and she went on to be the oldest of 3 children, and she had her difficulties. She had probably over a lifetime had 13 surgeries, and never dawned on me that we wouldn't have her in our life. So she had, some of the surgeries were a little bit difficult, watching her be in pain, but she was amazing. I think kids with special needs have a tendency to have just really, really amazing ability to be very impervious to some things, but they usually have sweet spirits, and she did, and she was funny and feisty. She walked until she was about 8 or 9, and then she opted for a wheelchair. She was mentally whole and physically challenged, and she impacted everybody she touched. But yeah, she was amazing, and she was born on your birthday, which makes my heart go, breaks. It makes my heart wonderful, but makes my heart break. So as a result, Ashley was 24, had a surgery. We just figured after 13 surgeries, she'd be fine. And she had a hemispheric episode, which took her from us. And yeah, it was pretty profound, but I think over the years, it was hard to watch her have issues, but I think for me, and it's funny because my husband Jeff would have experienced it differently. It broke his heart, but I think I was always profoundly aware of how amazing she was and what a gift she was. And I hated that she went through it, but I was very thankful she was mine and that she was my
Yeah.
gift. And I think that's why I felt so apart when she did leave us, because I felt like it was sort of like an Indian giver. Like, you can't take her away. You promised. Like, I did good. I took care of her. But she was kind of an amazing kid, and all three of my kids are amazing. They're all amazing and sustained quite a bit. But anytime our kids are, I think so for her, I was watching her, she didn't know any different. So I think the difference is, though, we're going to talk a little bit about it. So I have a kiddo who kind of from the get-go had surgeries, and she really endured them right in stride. And people would be kind of funny saying, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you do that." But she didn't know any different. So then when you have other children who have an episode and people would almost be apologizing to me, "Oh, it's not as bad." I'm like, pain is only as deep as what you know,
That's
so
right.
we didn't know
That's
any
right.
different. She was my first child, and you can't compare. When you hurt for your children, you hurt for your children. So
Yes.
it's,
100%.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
no, yeah. So I know that's kind of interesting because you had Paul before I had her, and Jeff and I were talking on the way home tonight. We were talking about surgeries and things like that, and I was reminding him that you had gone through something that was devastating, and I broke my femur years ago as an adult, and I just know how painful
Yeah.
it was. And I said, "Yeah, Jeff, remember?" So kind of funny. I was saying, we were talking about our children being in pain and watching them having to go through surgery, and how do we feel about that. And it's a hard thing as a parent to come alongside, but it's a gift to be able to be their parent at the same time. Does that make sense?
It does. And I wonder what got you through that time because it is painful. It's one of the most painful things, but you have a very strong faith, right? And so
Yeah.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm assuming that that's part of what got you through, and then some
Yeah,
family
huge.
members and
Yeah.
just not being alone,
Yeah.
correct?
Totally.
Can you
My
elaborate
family
on
was
that a little
amazing.
bit?
My friends, absolutely. My family and friends were amazing. I think all of us were a little dumbfounded when I had her because we just didn't expect it. I mean, back
Yeah,
in the day, nowadays we have what's called alpha fetoprotein and all these testings that you can do to see if there's an issue with your children. And I had no idea. But my feeling is God is good. I planned on having like this whole natural birth, and oddly so, my water broke, and we went in, and I very calmly said, "Fine, take a C-section." And that was a gift, because had I delivered her naturally, she would have probably had more trauma to her back. As a result, she didn't.
wow.
Um, Fast forward, I think in some ways the gift was that I was young and I didn't know any
Yeah,
better. So she's my
that's
first, and
great.
she was my first. I didn't know any better. It's what I knew. And I
She
don't
looked just like you,
know. Part of
Karen,
me,
you know? She looked
I
just like
know.
you.
Yeah, my only
Yeah,
one that, well, the other two sort of look like me, but the kids are cute because she just was a hoot. You couldn't, I can't tell you. It was just crazy. So it's taken us, so we lost her, oh gosh, 2008.
yeah,
So we're going on 18 years. So it's taken me 18 years to get to the point where I can talk about this and realize well, I knew what a blessing she was, don't get me wrong, but it's to come to the point to see the joy and the sorrow and the joy that comes still afterwards, and that there's still more. And something that feels like yesterday, it's so long ago at the same time. It's bizarre, but
yeah,
the journey was I wouldn't have traded it, Iris. I don't think I would have traded it. I don't think I would
yeah,
have traded the journey. It wasn't great going through all those 13 surgeries, and she was such a trooper, but the things she needed to do to have a good quality of life. She happened to be one of this small group of kids. So they come with, a lot of times it's hydrocephalic. And so there's fluid that goes into the brain stem, into the brain area, because the back it's compromised. And what they
yeah,
did back in the day, they were doing shunts like right here. So they do what it was, a shunt to keep the fluid flowing. And then I think they eventually realized they needed to put the shunt back here. So back more in the brainstem area. And the long and the short of it is the kids that had the shunt put in the other location, I believe most of them or all of them are not with us anymore. They did not. They failed at some point. So, yeah. So,
I thought it
she
was,
was, like I said, she was amazing.
yeah, she really was. And I had the privilege of getting to know her and spending time with her. Even when
I
she was
know.
born, I can remember you coming to
I
visit me
know.
with her
Mm,
in the
yeah.
car seat. And she was such a good little
Yeah.
baby
Yeah.
too. And my Paul was too. He was a good little
Amazing. Yeah.
baby. But if I can take just a
Yeah.
minute to share some of my story with what I went through with my son,
Yeah.
and this stuff brings tears to our eyes, doesn't it? Um,
I
you
know. It
know,
does
I
because you're
always,
happy. You love your babies. They're your heart.
yeah, I mean, as much as I've been through with my physical problems, nothing compares to when your child goes through something. Anyway, when
No,
I've
totally.
mentioned this before, and it is in the book, where when my son was very young, first of all, when he was born, I had a lot of health problems because of that burst appendix. I had peritonitis that was
Yeah.
laying dormant. And when they did a C-section,
Mm.
it flared right up again. And I had a very difficult
Really?
time. My
Wow.
mother had to help. I was in the hospital with him for weeks, to
Yeah.
get the peritonitis
Wow.
under control. And he just was such a good little baby. He was beautiful. And always had a very good disposition, always
Mm-hmm.
smiling. In fact, when people would look at him in the bassinet in the hospital, they'd be like, "Wow,
I
that baby could
love
have
it.
just been born." And no, he was 2 weeks old already. And it broke
Mm-hmm.
my heart that I couldn't just go home with him. But when I did, my mother was there because I wasn't well enough to
Yeah.
care for him on my own. And as a lot of people, after you have a C-section, most people need help. But
Yeah.
so we went along, and I had a lot of health issues, which made it tough. My husband was very good. He was supportive. I had other people like what you're
Yeah.
talking about. And
Yeah.
so I was well enough when he was probably around 2 to go back to work. And so I'm going to tell you what happened to him that broke my heart, even to this
Mm-hmm.
day, because it affected
I
him the
know.
rest of his life. And in fact, he's calling on the phone right now.
Doesn't he know what we're
Anyway,
doing? Come on, Paul. What are you doing?
no, he's just returning my
That's
call.
funny. Oh, I
Anyway,
love it.
I want to answer the phone so bad. But anyway,
You can do it. Go ahead.
so yeah, right. I'll answer the phone. Here comes my son,
Just
Paul.
say I'm talking to you, Paul. I'm talking about you, Paul.
Paul, I'm in the middle of doing a video for the podcast, and we were just talking about you. Can you say hi? This is my Paul
I
that I was
can't
just talking
hear him. I can't hear him. That's funny.
about. Yeah. Can I call you back, honey? Yeah, you're on
I
the
love it. That's
podcast.
so funny.
Say hi to Karen.
Hi. Hi, Paul. I love it. That's awesome. Funny.
Yeah, we're talking about our children and how we love them and how wonderful they are, and that's you. Okay, can I call you back when I'm done? Okay, love you too, honey.
That's
Bye-bye.
so funny.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, why can't I answer the
Hmm.
phone as my podcast? Anyway,
Please excuse this brief interruption for a shameless commercial. Remember, you can get your own copy of Iris's book, Never Alone, at irisfsmith.com.
so when he was 2,
Huh.
I went back to work, is what I was saying, to recap. And I went to work at the recreational place. It was called the Center for People with Disabilities. And I
Yeah.
loved it. I was able to work, I was well enough to be able to work part-time, planning events and recreational activities for people with disabilities. And I used to take them on trips. And Paul and
Oh, I
different
love
friends
it.
used to go with me, and we would take trips to Boston. It was lots of fun. But there was
Oh, that's
one
funny.
time
Love it.
and I had this babysitter who loved him dearly, and I totally trusted
Hmm.
her with him. I knew she was caring for
Yep.
him when I was working like her own. And so
Yep.
anyway, she was shopping with her children, and she had a daughter that was on the autistic range back, but they didn't know
Spectrum.
about autism. This was back in the 80s, yeah, on the
Hmm.
spectrum. And
Yeah.
so she was really, really, you know, kind of hyper and couldn't really focus. And so she wanted to
Yeah.
push my son Paul at 2 years old in the carriage in the
Oh,
shopping cart. And so somehow, and I wasn't there yet, I was on my way to pick them
yeah.
up at the grocery store from work, and somehow she toppled the carriage over and he got severely injured. I mean, severely injured. He almost died.
Yeah.
Somehow, and I
Yeah.
know it was the grace of God that when I came into the shopping place, I could hear him crying. And of course, I ran right to him. And at that time, I did have a mass in my stomach that was still trying to heal. And I was very thin
Jeez.
and frail myself. And so I went to him and I picked him up, and I instinctively knew, Karen, not to pick him up anyway, but to hold him up like this, where
Yeah.
his leg would straight. His
Hang
femur
down.
was
Yeah.
severed. I didn't know it, but I swear it was the
Yeah.
Lord. Because
Yeah.
he could have died if I handled
Yep.
it the wrong way. He could have severed that artery in his leg because he broke his femur.
Yeah.
And so I rushed him to the
Wow.
hospital myself. I went through every red light. I didn't care. And when I got him to the
Yeah.
hospital, boom, 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 they got him right in. They put him in traction immediately, and they decided that
Wow.
his femur was in half at 2 years old.
Hmm.
So that he had to be
Yeah.
in traction for over a month in the hospital, and it was
Yeah.
heartbreaking, heartbreaking. So let me share what
I
happened.
know.
So but God was good because people were visiting him, people were helping me. I had no
Hmm.
sleep for a whole month. I mean, I just couldn't sleep. And
Yeah.
talk about feeling your child's pain. I had so much pain in my
Yeah.
leg just because I
Oh.
was feeling the pain. And his birthday, his third birthday, was in the hospital, and everybody got
Yeah.
together. My mother came out, my
Love
sister,
it.
all the different friends came out. They hired a clown with balloons, and all these kids
Love it.
came. He had the most beautiful birthday, laying in bed in traction. And
Love
people were
it.
crying because he was just such a good little boy to lay there,
Isn't that
you know.
crazy? That's the whole thing.
And so then when it was time to
Sweet.
bring him home, and again, I did
Yeah.
not sleep the whole month. I couldn't. I just was
Mm.
beside myself.
Aw.
And
Yeah.
so when it was time to bring him home, he had to be in a body cast for another month. And the poor little
Hmm.
guy was
Been
crawling
there.
around, you know, and
Isn't it
I mean,
crazy?
and then I feel guilty as a parent because I wasn't there. But even the woman who babysat for him, she
Yeah.
said to me, she was afraid that I wasn't going to talk to her anymore. I
Oh.
said, no, no, no. I said, this was an
Oh.
accident. I
Yeah.
said, I know you love him. I
Yeah.
mean, she had tears in her eyes. What was I
Yeah.
going to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so for the whole month that he
Right.
was in the body cast, God was so good. We had a lot of support. We were not alone, but still, it was
Hmm.
very painful. And to this day, Karen, I feel guilty that I was not there to be there for my son to
Oh,
prevent that,
you can't do
you know?
that though. I mean,
And it
I
to
don't think we've
him,
ever talked about the fact they both were in body casts. That's funny. Ashley had a body cast too.
yeah,
Didn't know
yeah,
that because they needed to sustain the whole leg. Yeah.
that's
That's so
right, right.
crazy.
So to this
I know.
day, he still has trouble with, his legs being uneven and his back is now curved. He suffered a lot of injury.
Oh,
And then in addition to that, later
yeah.
on in life, when he went to college, listen to this. I mean, as a
I know
mother,
this is terrible.
I want to cringe. When he was in
Yeah.
college, he was in his first semester in Florida going to Embry-Riddle Aerospace Engineering School. And so his first semester was semester break. He went with his friend and his then girlfriend to go out for a pizza. He came out of the restaurant with a pizza in his hand, and this big guy came up to him and said, "Give me that pizza." And Paul said no. The guy beat him up to the point where his whole jaw was shattered.
Ever
Another
catch them?
major, no, they never caught him. Broke my
Crazy.
heart in two again.
Yeah.
So
I
now
can't
Paul,
imagine that part. That's to me is heart-wrenching.
he had to have complete reconstruction surgery.
Yeah.
He has all these plates, and it makes me nervous every time his children touch his face. I'm like, no, 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 don't touch daddy's
Yeah.
face, you know?
I'm sure he's
But
good though, hun.
here's the
Yeah.
blessing, and the blessing has come for you too that we can talk about. Okay, so we've been through
I
these
know, it's
trying times.
crazy.
What happens? We grow, we get stronger if we choose
Yeah.
to. We lean on other people, we get
Yeah.
stronger in the Lord. And
Yeah.
what the devil meant for bad, God meant for good is all I can say. you know.
I
All things work
yeah,
together for
yeah,
good.
I agree.
You know, it's just
Yeah.
to this day, every time I see my son, I feel guilty because of what happened to him. I should have been there. And I know realistically, I was working, I was coming to pick him up. It was an
Yeah, yeah,
accident.
yeah. Doing the best you can.
But
I think if anything, they're
but
talking about the thing when he got beat. That makes me sick to my stomach because there's like that whole sense of you couldn't have done anything, and he was not within that. I mean, you have to let them go at some point, but having somebody else harm your
I gotta
child,
tell you,
I can't
he's
imagine. I
but I
can't
gotta tell you,
imagine.
he is so blessed because he has a beautiful wife. He has two
Yeah.
beautiful children, my grandchildren that we
Yeah.
love dearly. And, my husband and I moved out here from Boston to
Yeah.
Washington State to be near
Mm-hmm.
them, and we can't get enough of them. And
Yeah.
thank God we're all very, very
Yeah.
close. And he knows, my Paul knows that he is loved
Yeah.
dearly by his mom and dad
Yeah.
you know, his uncles and different people. But
Yeah.
you know, life, I got to tell you, Karen, life comes at us and it comes at us unexpectedly, right?
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. I
And
think
what do
that
you
I
do?
think
What,
I think the interesting that you just said is our kids knowing that my kids and my grandkids know they're loved
yeah.
profoundly. I really I think that's my main goal is I think they know it. I mean, I think more my grandkids than my kids. I think I've done a better job almost with the grandkids, but isn't that crazy? Like you go through these things and that's really what matters. As my granddaughter's going this way, I love you, baby. So,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
see how
it's
blessed we are. We have
that
we have
brings tears
family.
to my eyes. I know.
It does.
Yeah, and
And
that's
so
what
what I
matters.
was
I think
saying,
you go through
Karen,
those things, that's what matters. Hmm.
yeah, what I was saying to you, Karen, is that life comes at us and what are we going to do with it? And what we
Yeah.
do with it makes all the difference. Let me just verbalize
Huge.
this part.
Huge.
You know, it's like, okay, so what did I choose to do? I choose to cling to my husband. When my mother was alive, I chose to
Mm-hmm.
cling to her.
Yeah.
I cling to the
Yeah.
Lord. I cling to you. I cling to different friends.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what it gave me strength, because that's
Yeah.
why the Bible says in Ecclesiastes, pity the man who's alone. We were never
Yeah.
created to not be anywhere but with community, honestly, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Even when we don't
what,
want the community, if they're there, that holds you, it holds you accountable. So for those times that you can't do it and reach out, I think even with her and the times that I was just sort of broken and feeling that probably I know it was between friends and family that sustained me because when I couldn't do it, they picked it up. So
yeah,
yeah. I
yeah,
can't,
it's,
yeah, isn't
it's
that
really
crazy?
tough.
I know. And we hurt profoundly for our children more than we do for ourselves. So, yeah,
But see, Karen, here's
yeah.
the other part of it that I have really enjoyed about your and my relationship is during those tough times, you know what? We started out when you were 5 and I was 8, and everything that we
I
went through, and we
know.
went through plenty.
Yeah.
Let me just say this, okay? We went through plenty. It bonded us deeper and deeper to the point where we wondered if we were really sisters, you know? We just didn't
I
even know
know.
the
It's so
difference anymore,
funny.
you know? We
Yeah.
had
I
each
believe
other
that though. I
and
believe that, yeah. I believe there's
because
there's a
everything,
family that you have and the family that you choose. So you
yeah.
get to have both.
And
Yeah.
everything that you went through, I felt it, and I think everything I went through, you felt it, correct?
I know. I know. I know. And you were so good because I really was shut down for so long, but you never gave up and I really appreciate it. Looking back, I just couldn't do it, but you were just it was gentle. It wasn't like you just stayed consistent. You knew I couldn't talk and when she passed away and yeah. So and here we
Well,
are because
here's
I
the
really
thing.
didn't think I'd ever talk to anybody again. So,
I
yeah.
know, I know. But here's the thing. When people die and you're trying to comfort somebody,
Yeah.
sometimes it's best not to say anything, just to hold their hand and just be
Oh,
there.
thank you.
It's
Amen.
true because what can you really
Yeah.
say? You can't talk them out of being out
Mm-mm.
of grieving or out
Just
of
be
being
present.
sad. Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
best way for our
Yeah.
viewers' sake. The best
Yeah.
way to handle when you know someone has lost somebody is just be there
Yeah.
and just I'm
Yeah.
here, whatever you need. And that's what I did for you for
And
years. Mhm.
yeah. And I think I'd say one step beyond that because I think people think, well, they don't want to hear from me or I have nothing good to say. But whether it's on the phone and making the call or just that text or just sort of showing up and not talking, just being present in some way speaks volumes. So
That's right.
it does matter whether you think it does or not. And I think sometimes it does require no words, because words, I think sometimes we just feel like we need to fill the space with words, and sometimes it's just really not what's needed. It's just the presence. So I love your saying that. It makes total sense to me. It resonates to my soul, believe me.
Well,
Yeah.
there's so much scripture that talks about being quiet, and that in quietness and
Mm.
confidence shall be thy strength. We're stronger when we're
Yeah.
quiet. And,
Yeah.
in Exodus, it says, look, I will fight for you. You need to only be still, and
Mm.
that's kind of
Yeah.
that's how I've done it. I've just really leaned on,
Yeah.
my faith and said, look, you got to help me
Yeah.
through this. This is really painful. And then in the
Mm-hmm.
midst of all this
Yeah.
stuff that Paul was going through, I was having so many health problems that I didn't even know about.
Oh,
My
yeah.
body was just
Yeah.
absolutely shutting down. And my husband tells people there was 2 years in a row where we went through our deductible so quickly, and Paul would be in the hospital. I'd be in the
Yep.
hospital. Paul would
Yep.
be in the hospital.
Yep.
It was terrible, and but he's a strong guy. He's very empathetic. He's compassionate. He loves his family as his father does. So, you look at the
Mhm.
blessings. You do. You look at the blessings that come out of these very, very trying
Yeah.
situations, you know?
Yeah. Isn't that funny? There's a whole nother topic for you, isn't it? And I know that not everybody has that in their life, but there are, I think those of us in particular situations where it's been super stressful, that when we've been blessed to have a partner who really has kind of really propped us up.
Yeah.
I don't think I appreciated all the stuff, that all the things that we had, and we went through a really rough time afterwards. But I have a man who is very amazing. Yeah. So if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be together. If it wasn't for him, my family wouldn't be together. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have felt so protected. So isn't that interesting, and cared for? And
Yeah.
so it was hard to express. I can say that to you, and he can listen to this, but I'm probably not good about telling him. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we've been really blessed with
Yeah.
two good husbands that have really, really been there.
Yeah.
And but this is the thing. I've
Yep.
I've always said this, and I've said this in my book, I've said it in other segments. The only way to get through life, and if you really, really want to have a friend, you have to first be a friend, okay? It's all about
Yeah.
reaching out to the other person. If you want to,
Right.
when I came to Washington State, I didn't know anyone except my son. And so somebody said to
Yeah.
me, well, they're not going to come to you. You have to reach out. So as I reached out,
Uh-huh.
I found that people reached back. It's not in
Yeah.
taking that we get, it's in giving that we get, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's
I
all
agree.
about
Yeah,
thinking about
totally.
the other person. I learned through Johnny and Friends when
Yeah.
I worked with her ministry, Johnny Erickson Tata, that it's very important to meet people where they're at. You know,
Yeah.
I can remember Ronnie Howard. He wrote an article that I really loved. I like him as an actor. And he said,
Yeah.
look, if you want to be a Muslim, be a Muslim. If you want to be a Christian,
Yeah.
be a Christian. If you want to be Jewish, be Jewish, but don't expect other people to be like you. Meet them where they're at,
Oh, yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
he said it
I love that.
beautifully in that article. Yeah, he's a good guy. I like Ronnie
Yeah.
Howard. I still watch him on Andy
I
Griffith
love
as
it.
little Opie.
Oh, I love it. No, I think
Yeah,
it's, thank you. I think we miss it. I think people miss a lot when they can't just be present, and it's not our place to judge. It's not our place to have preconceived ideas. I think, it is, my feeling has always been biblical. It's just kind of, for me, I was raised, you just, our greatest commandment is to love. And I'm called to just come alongside people. Not that you're going to love everybody,
that's
not that
right. That's
everybody's
right.
going to be a good fit, but when it is, it's good. And sometimes it's in really, really unexpected ways. And just, I'm actually feel like it's a privilege. It was a privilege to have my daughter and to go through what we went through. It was heart wrenching, but you had the privilege of having this beautiful boy that came into this amazing man. And I think the journey can be painful in any and all ways, but the result can be amazing. So, and again, then life is part of heartache and joy, and just got to be there for the journey.
Well, the thing is with Paul, and then we can close out with this because we're just about out of time.
Yeah.
You know, I still find myself worrying about his health, but I worry about my husband's health.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when you've been
Yeah.
sick a
Yeah.
lot in your lifetime, you're afraid that someone else is going to, you don't
You
want that to
probably
happen to
worry.
anybody else. Yeah, you do, and you
Yeah.
can't help it. But then
I
that's
can
when I go to
imagine.
prayer. Yeah, that's when I go to prayer and I
Yeah.
say, you got to help me with this, Lord, because I can't let go. You know, I have to
Yeah.
trust that everything's going
Oh,
to be okay.
yeah.
You
Yeah. Gotta get that worry gone, girl. Yeah.
know? We're
Yeah.
human.
Wow. Yeah. That makes sense to me, though, Iris. It does make sense to me. Just so you're saying that. Why wouldn't you naturally think that way? That totally makes sense. So, but on
It's a
that
weakness.
note, yeah. Well, don't, yeah. No, it's a human thing. It's a human nature. It's how we're predisposed, and I think that's what caused us to step back and to remind us to rely on something that's bigger than ourselves.
You know, and I thought it was really sweet that my son had just called in the middle of the podcast
I
and
know.
was able to
In the
say
middle
hello.
of
I
it. I
mean,
love it.
talk about the timing,
Yeah.
you know, and so that people could hear
Yeah.
his voice, you know. And if you want to see
Yeah.
what
And
Paul
that's
looks
what's
like,
important.
yeah, he's in my book and we have
He's in
130
my book.
photos. Yeah, we get lots of
That's
photos of
awesome.
him and also on my
Yeah.
website and his beautiful wife and you know, we are
Yeah.
blessed. So let's close out for tonight and Karen, I want to thank you
Yeah.
for coming alongside of me with this very heavy topic and you know, again, for my viewers and our viewers, I just want to say that if you gained something from this particular segment, if you could like and share it and comment and let us know how you are because you know life is a little tough right now for so many for so
Yeah.
many and we're all praying for good outcomes for everyone. So thank you for joining
Yeah.
us. We
I
hope to see
agree.
you next time. Karen, I love you very much. You are a dear sister to
Love you
me.
too. Thank
And, you know, we'll
you.
see each other again, huh? All right. Good night, everyone.
Sounds good. East Coast to West Coast. See you
That's
guys.
right. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Wow, that was awesome, wasn't it?
I know those stories were really something. Hey, thanks everyone for joining us. We'll see you next time when we share more stories from Iris's book, Never Alone.
Order your copy of Never Alone at irisfsmith.com today.